The Harvesting, the first book, written by Martin Hedgren. After all the gods, the monsters, and giants were killed, the few people that had survived the apocalypse would worship the god Balder, son of Odin, who would rise up from the dead after Ragnarök to rule in a new heaven. They would repopulate the reborn earth. Chapter 1. The alarm went off at exactly 4:30 a.m. The alarm was set on John's cell phone and placed across the room, forcing him to get out of bed. Grumbling, wanting to sleep more, but the alarm was set to the most annoying ringtone possible, and it was loud. He got to his cell phone and turned the alarm off, glad that he did not kick or step on anything, since the bedroom was an absolute mess. It had been like this since his wife left him 6 months earlier. It had not been an ugly separation. They still talked. It was more, I'm tired of you and your ways, never caring for anything except yourself, and I want my own life, doing what I want to do, and not always having to fix your messes. At least, that is what she had told him. John later found out that the real reason was that she had found someone else. To be frank, good riddance, as far as he was concerned. They did not have any kids, and that made it all easier. He usually leaves the house at 5 a.m., and that gives him just enough time to walk to the kitchen and start the coffee, do the bathroom thing, get dressed, and return to the kitchen perfectly in time for the coffee to be ready. He usually did things like this, setting a tight schedule and meeting the goal. It gave him a certain satisfaction, and it set the tone for his day. Today seemed as if it would be a good day. He sat down on the couch and turned the TV on, just to get an idea of what the news had to say. More killings, more bombs, and pandemonium, as the lady in curlers always said when interviewed. He smiled to himself. I bet that the TV crews do this on purpose. They find the craziest redneck woman to interview, he thought. Well, not today. There was nothing going on, really. Well, no matter what, he had to go, and it was 4:58. He turned the TV off, closed and locked the front door, and went to his truck. What John did not know was that he had just let the TV stay on for one more minute. He would have seen that the TV transmissions went dark. He started up his truck and let it idle for a bit. It ran a bit rough, but it would settle down as it warmed up. He lit a cigarette and turned the radio on. It was just static on his favorite morning station. Somebody's getting fired, he thought, and flipped to the local country station. More static. He randomly pushed all the preset stations. All the same, no signal, nothing. That is strange, he thought as he pulled out of his driveway. I guess there is a power outage or something. He had to get to work and he could not be late. They had an inspection today, and since he was the construction foreman, he better be there. There were some things that they had fallen behind on. Nobody's fault, really, but he knew that he would have to answer for it. It was damn irritating. The company setting up guidelines and the timelines and everything else. None of them ever worked a day building the stuff that they came up with. The only thing that these administrators ever built was probably Lego, if they even could manage that. They sat in the cozy offices setting up their timelines, and if his man fell behind, he had to answer for it. Fuck him, he thought. He got to the highway and turned south. Great, no traffic, not a car in sight. He gunned it, but after hitting 80 miles per hour, he slowed down to 70. Still a speeding ticket if he got caught, but with no traffic, he would be fine. He had about 7 miles until he had to get off the highway, and as he drove, he realized that something was off. Not a single car. The lights on the buildings were all off. Now, for regular houses, that was normal, but not for businesses. They usually had lights on around the clock. He decided to stop at the gas station up ahead. They might know what's going on. Whoa, he said out loud. This is getting really weird. He knew exactly where the gas station was, on his right, just up ahead, but he could not see the lights, still no cars. He got to the gas station, turned, and pulled up in front. Nobody in sight, no lights were on. He stepped out of the truck and peered into the gas station's large windows. He could not see anyone. Another thing, it was so quiet. No sounds, no cars or trucks, just some birds chirping. John got a strange feeling, almost scared, without knowing what he could be scared of since there was nothing or nobody around. Or maybe somebody was hiding and waiting for him. Maybe they just had been robbed and the robbers were still inside. There were cars parked next to his truck and some vehicles at the pumps. But hang on a second, that was even stranger. Some of the vehicles at the pump still had the gas holes in the car, as if somebody had been filling up gas and then suddenly just walked away. One of the parked trucks had its engine running. An eerie feeling grew inside of him. He lit another cigarette to get back in his truck. Let's keep going, he said to himself. I wonder if I need to return home and get a gun, just in case. He continued on the highway, slow and more vigilant. He saw a car on the side of the road, halfway in the ditch with its headlights on, and it was obviously running, since smoke came out of its exhaust pipe. He slowed down and parked behind the car with his headlights directed at it. He got out and slowly walked up to the car. "Hey, anybody here?" he said in a loud voice. There was no answer, and as he got to the driver's side door, he saw that the car was empty. "This makes no sense whatsoever," he said. He took his phone out and was about to call one of the guys at the work site, but his phone was as dead as a doornail. He had kept it on the charger all night. He was absolutely sure of that, so it could not be dead. Besides, the phone was only 2 weeks old. He had just upgraded, as he had removed his soon-to-be ex-wife from the contract. "Okay, I need to figure out what's going on here," he said as he got back in his truck and headed for the work site. As he drove, he saw many cars and trucks on the side of the road, most with their headlights on and, as far as he could tell, with their engines running. Okay, if whatever it was that made everyone disappear, they must have had some kind of forewarning, since the cars are all on the side of the road or in a ditch beside the road. He passed more businesses and gas stations, but he did not stop. He was going straight for the work site, and hopefully he would find his work crew there. They were not at the work site. Nobody was anywhere. John, for a moment, considered whether he had lost his mind. If he was still sleeping, or, well, he was open to any suggestions at this point. It was 5:30 a.m., and the sun started to rise. As it was getting lighter, he got a better glimpse of his surroundings. The work site was as they had left it yesterday afternoon. Everything was where they had left it. Machines, materials, tools. He looked up at the sky. It was going to be a beautiful sunrise, and he had absolutely no idea what he was going to do next. He decided to drive to his ex-wife's house. His parents lived in upstate New York, and this was Virginia, so he could not go there. His ex-wife's house was 20 minutes away, and with no cars on the road, he got there fast. The house was dark, and when he knocked at the door, rang the doorbell, banged and kicked at the door, yelled her name, there was no reply. Just the birds, and panic started growing inside of him. John looked around and saw a fist-sized rock on the ground. It was placed inside a planter, and it was hand-painted. It was painted bright blue with an even brighter yellow sun. He threw the rock and it shattered the window in the door, and he was able to stick his arm through and unlock the door from the inside. As he stepped inside, he yelled out, "Jesse, are you in here?" There was no answer, so he went room by room, searching for Jesse. The house was empty. He walked back outside and sat down on the steps leading to the front door. His mind was not able to wrap itself around this. Nothing made any sense. Where is everybody? What could possibly have caused this? Unless he was going insane. Maybe that is it. He had gone insane and was living in an imagined reality. That thought was even scarier than the alternative, that all people had disappeared. Where to? They still must be somewhere. His mind was playing tricks on him. Shape the fuck up, he told himself. He decided to go back home and regroup. Chapter 2. As he drove back home, now it was daylight, he saw cars and some trucks that were overturned and some that had crashed into other cars. He had not seen that earlier. He had not paid attention, and it being dark and all, maybe whatever it was had not been so peaceful after all. As he got closer to his house, he honked the horn many times over, trying to attract attention if somebody was still around. I mean, I am here, so that means that other people will be here as well. But nobody came out of their houses or showed themselves. John pulled into his driveway and unlocked the door. It was so quiet. He walked straight to his bedroom and took the gun from the lower shelf of his nightstand. He kept it there, covered by a pair of old shorts. It was his favorite gun, a replica of an 1858 Remington revolver. It had come as a black powder gun, and he had bought a kit from Louisiana and replaced the cylinder with a cylinder that took 45 ACP rounds. It also had a special part that replaced the firing pin system that the black powder cylinder used. So it was now a fully working 45 with a 6-inch barrel. He could hit anything within 50 yards with this gun. He had made a holster for it himself. As he put the gun on his hip, the holster was set up to fit on his regular belt. He felt calmer. He slowly shook his head. He would do that many times in the coming future. It's funny, with lots of people around, I felt comfortable. And now, with nobody in sight, I don't feel safe. Nevertheless, having the gun at his side felt good. At least he would be ready for whatever might come his way. He had a 12-gauge pump shotgun as well, but he let it sit for now. No need to overdo it, he thought. I really want some coffee. All I need is hot water, and I can pour the water through the coffee maker's filter. Perfect, the grill. He walked outside to the grill that he had on the front porch, cleaned it out, poured some coal in there, and lots of lighter fluid. A little too much lighter fluid. When he put his lighter to it, it flamed high and almost took his face off. He got an all-metal pot from the kitchen and tried getting water from the faucet. Oh, you stupid. Shoot, I need some water. He looked around and found a 6-pack of water bottles, orange-tasting water. I always wanted to taste coffee with an orange flavor to it. He poured the water into the pot and set it on top of the barbecue rack. Next was to load the coffee maker with coffee in the filter. Jesse, eat your heart out. No way in hell that you could have figured this one out, he thought. With coffee in his cup, cigarette lit, he tried to get a grip on the situation. Okay, so I am alone with no electricity. That can be fixed with a generator. Gas for the truck and the generator, I can siphon that from any vehicle. He made a list of what he needed right now. A generator. I can get that at Lowe's. What else do I need from Lowe's? Just in case. I wonder what the Amish use for light and cooking. Propane, yes, that's it. And the lamps and stuff that go with that. Don't have to pay for anything today, he said, laughing. Boom. The living room window did not break, but it must have been close to breaking. A bird had flown straight into the window. John's heart rate must have been over 200. My God, I'm just completely losing it, he said. He was shaking, part surprised by the bird hitting the window, part something else that he could not define. Fear? Oh, hell no. There's nothing to be afraid of. I never lost a fight in my life. I'm 6'4", 225 pounds. Just bring it on. John realized that he had to pull himself together. Everything was fine. Everything was just like when he woke up this morning, except for no people and no electricity. That's it. He had not seen or heard any dogs or any other animals. Even the neighbor's constantly barking piece of shit dog was quiet or gone. Antibiotics. He needed to get some, just in case. Maybe some Valium as well, the way that he was going. Wait a minute, he thought. The birds are still here. The birds, but no dogs or other animal as far as he had seen. That must mean something. I wonder what. What do you think, Jesse? Oh, Lord, I'm fucking talking to myself and asking Jesse to shoot me. By now it was close to 10 a.m. John decided to concentrate on the things that he could control, like going shopping at discounted prices. Now, the stores are likely to be closed, so he gathered up a heavy-duty chain, a come-along, and a lasso, because it was very strong rope. He also brought 2 5-gallon gas cans. Oops, almost forgot. He went back into the shed and came out with a crowbar. Can't do without this one, he said, giggled to himself. He felt a little bit better now that he had a task to perform. It is never good just to sit and think. Jesse always said that thinking was not his strong side anyways. Yeah, very funny, Jesse, he said out loud. As he loaded up the truck, he noticed that the birds were louder somehow, and it seems as if there were more of them. Probably just imagination. He started the truck and headed into town. He had half a tank of gas. The tank held 30 gallons, so he was good for now. He drove slowly down the road, scanning every house and building, searching for movement of any kind. There was nothing, but he just could not accept that he would be the only living being, except for the birds in this area. It may not be a big town, but still around 60,000 people lived here, so he was bound to run into somebody. The event, let's call it that, he thought, must have happened just as I left the house. I watched TV, and when I left the house and got in the truck, the radio could not get a signal, and everything was dark. So, the electricity must have gone out around 5 a.m., and people disappeared at the same time. Maybe. So, in either case, it must be connected somehow. Aliens or the Chinese. Since Biden left office, there had not been any more Chinese air balloons floating across the country, so that was probably not it. But with the Chinese, you never know. John drove to Lowe's first, as he had suspected. The store was closed, and to his dismay, he found that the people that had designed the entrance knew exactly what they were doing. There was no way that he could get his truck in close enough to break the glass in the entrance doors. I should have brought the shotgun, he thought, as he was looking for something to use to break the glass. John decided on using the crowbar, and he hit the glass a few times. The glass was a lot stronger than he had anticipated. Turning the crowbar around and hitting the glass with a claw did the trick. It still did not shatter all the way, so it took some time before the hole was big enough for him to get through. The second set of doors were also closed but not locked, so he pushed the sliding doors open. Once inside, he looked for the generators. He knew the inside of Lowe's since it was one of his favorite stores. Sitting at the end of the aisle was a real beauty, a Duramax HXT Series 15,000, a 15,000 watt gasoline generator. The price said $2,732.77. I'll take it. Literally, he said, laughing slowly, hoping that the store cameras were not operational. It had everything that he needed to keep the house working, maybe even for the air conditioner. He rolled it to the front doors and saw that there was no way for him to get it out of the store without fully opening the front doors. The front doors were sliding doors, and he could not use any kind of force to slide them open since there was not enough space for that. But he could use a chain and his come along to force them open and get them out of their tracks. He had already made a hole in one door, so he did the same to the other door, making it possible for him to secure the chain around the frame of both doors. He attached the come along to a cement pillar and started cranking. It did not take much. He could see the bottom part of the door bending outwards, and then the top snapped out of its tracks, and with a loud bang, the doors hit the concrete. They were easy to move to the side. Next problem, as he had pulled the generator to the front doors, it had rolled very easily, and as he pulled it out of the truck and tried to lift it up on the truck bed, he realized that it weighed 350 pounds. Well, what better place than Lowe's? John got two 4x6 8-foot planks, and once again, using the come along, he got the generator loaded and secured. The propane was easy to find in the outside cage. He cut the padlock and emptied the shelves. Fortunately, all the lamps and heaters and other stuff that he could hook up to the propane bottles were all in one place inside the store. He filled 2 shopping carts with heaters and lights and put everything in the truck bed. John also picked up some batteries and flashlights. Next stop, Harris Teeter, a grocery store 2 blocks away. They also had a pharmacy, so he could get groceries and antibiotics all in one stop. Chapter 3. Using the crowbar, he managed to force the doors open. He got a large shopping cart and went straight for the pharmacy. There was a metal sliding mesh type cover that closed the pharmacy for extra protection. There was also a side door with a small glass window in it. He used a crowbar to smash the window and open the door from the inside. I'm getting good at this, he thought. He found penicillin, amoxicillin, or whatever it was called. He used it when he had a bladder infection a couple of years ago. Pain meds, he might as well get that too. Vicodin or oxycodone or Contin something. He found that too. The penicillin, I bet there are 1,000 pills in here, he thought as he looked at the large bottle. As to the oxy, probably 100 pills or so. He also cleaned out the supply of NyQuil. John picked canned foods, chips, 5-minute rice, a bunch of steaks, and other things. He filled up a total of 2 shopping carts. Everything went in the back of his truck. Only one thing left to do. He needed to siphon gas. He had brought a piece of garden hose and decided on an F-150 parked close. It had enough gas to fill both gas cans. Done, he thought, and drove out of the Harris Teeter parking lot. It was 12:30 p.m., and he had been busy, so the weirdness of the day had been put aside. But once he was driving down the road, it hit him, and an uneasy feeling settled deep down inside of him. He backed the truck up as close to the deck as he could. He had kept the boards and used them to unload the generator. As He was gassing up and preparing to start the generator. It suddenly got a whole lot darker. There was a very deep, almost nauseating sound, and as he looked up, he saw an object above. It may have been about 1,000 feet up, and it was slowly moving from east to west. The sound grew louder. It was a deep bass sound, like what you sometimes hear from vehicles when a person driving has it up way too loud. The object blocked out the sun and the sky above him. It was enormous in size. He could not see where it ended. It moved slowly, maybe 40 miles an hour, if he were to guess. John could not see any engine exhaust or anything that would keep it up, but it did stay up. John kept staring at it, trying to make out features, but the bottom seemed smooth, like if this was made out of one shiny piece of metal. No windows, no hatches, just smooth, shiny metal that was shimmering, or the surface seemed almost like it was liquidy in some way. John vomited. It was the sound and the vibration the sound made. Radiation, John thought. Hopefully not, or I'll be toast. The object started to ascend at a slow rate, and soon he could see the whole object. It was immense in size, maybe a mile or more in diameters. Fucking aliens, John thought, not really understanding or comprehending what this was. As the object got higher, it seemed to increase its speed, and the vibrating sound grew faint. There was a flash of light, and the object was gone. John sat down on one of the lawn chairs that he had on the deck, lit a cigarette, and just sat there, brain empty. Did they leave? He asked out loud. The air felt different. His anxiety dissipated. I think they did, he thought. At least it's not the Chinese. John stood up and walked inside the house. He tried the light switch in the living room, thinking that if they left, the power might be back on. Nope, it was not on. He got some long extension cords from the truck. He started the generator, and it was easy to get it started. He hooked up one of the extension cords to the generator and the other end to the refrigerator in the kitchen. It worked, so he brought all the food items that he had picked up at Harris Teeter and put it away. There was room for all the meat that he had gotten. Okay, step one complete, he said. He was proud of what he had achieved so far. He stood in his front yard and pulled the gun out. He fired 3 rounds into the ground and waited. If the Homeowners Association had seen or heard the shots fired, he would have been publicly crucified, he thought. There was no response. Maybe someone had heard the shots and did not have a gun to respond. I'll do the same every day from now on, he decided. I need to go to the gun store and get some more ammunition. It was the middle of September, and the weather was cooperating. Not too cold, not too hot, so he did not have to worry about that yet. Winter would come, and he needed to be prepared for the wintry weather. Aliens. John was still reeling from the experience, but being used to making decisions and being a practical guy, he could not help but thinking about how it all fit together. Let us say that it was an alien spaceship. Or Chinese. No, it was alien. All the people are gone, except for me. So, a spaceship and the people are gone. Connected, absolutely. The Matrix, John thought. No way. Could they have been harvesting people and putting them into a matrix as their energy source? I'd go crazy. Even though the spaceship was enormous, it was not big enough to fit all people. So are they kept somewhere, or did they just evaporate them? If so, why not me? If they just got rid of all people, What would be the purpose for doing so? John shivered as he was going through different scenarios. He reloaded his gun and put 10 extra cartridges in his pocket. Okay, back to what I can control. He put the propane lights and heaters together and tested them. He needed more coffee, and since the cold from this morning were still hot, it was easy to make. He had brought regular water from Harris Teeter, so finally real coffee. The generator was not loud, but loud enough to where he wondered if it would attract attention. I should have gotten a Honda generator instead, he thought. They run quieter. Oh, wait a minute. Of course I want people to find me, he thought, but at the same time, it would be better if I saw them before they see me. What if there are aliens left behind and they hear it and come looking? Now screw it. If they come, they come. Ain't nothing that I can do about it anyways. He held on to the gun and it felt reassuring somehow. Chapter 4. The light was fading and John realized that he had not eaten anything today. He brought life back to the grill and put a steak and stir-fried vegetables on the rack. It smelled great, and if there was anyone still in this neighborhood, they would not be able to resist. It did not take long for the steak to be done. John ate and washed it down with a couple of Yellow Jackets. Regular Coors beer in a yellow can. That was real beer. John never could understand why all beer these days had to be light beer, and Coors seemed to be the only one that still believed that beer was beer. The people out in California could have their light beer, or if you were confused as to what you are, there's always Bud Light. John laughed to himself. If you pull your pants down, I'll tell you what you are, and when that's done, I'll offer you a Coors. He laughed again. It was dark outside, but his propane light was really good and easily lit up the room. He could set the brightness with a little knob. He stepped outside to close the lid on the grill. He looked at the sky, and there, in the distance, he saw what looked like a beam of light directed at the sky. It was not bright as a laser light may be, more dim, but still visible. He had never seen anything like this before. What the fuck, he thought, but his brain did not want to deal with this right now. He closed the lid and went back inside, carefully locking the door. He slept on the couch that night with a gun next to him on the coffee table. It was an on and off sleep, and as dawn arrived, he got up, started the grill to make coffee. There must be some cooking device that works on propane, he thought. Another trip to Lowe's was on today's schedule. Coffee sure tastes good in the morning, John thought as he was on his second cup. Cigarettes with coffee were also special. He started smoking at 14 years old, sneaking with it, doing his best for his parents not to find out. They did, though, many times, and he got in trouble for it. Now, going on 45 years old, John was hooked and did not intend to quit, no matter what. At some point, he thought that if he were to quit, his body wouldn't let him. The light beam that he saw last night was on his mind as he drove down to Lowe's. After looking around, he found a bunch of propane-powered things in the camping section. He picked out the Howler 4 MKII. The tag said $1,474 on it, and it was the most expensive one they had. I'll take it, he said out loud. He decided to drive around his neighborhood just to check it out. He drove slowly, looking at every house and yard as he passed them. He was 2 blocks away from his house when he thought he saw movement. It was like he felt it more than saw it. He slammed on his brakes and backed up a few feet. He was almost sure that he had seen a person duck in behind the house. He honked the horn a couple of times, but nothing happened. John got out of his truck and walked toward the house. "Anyone there?" he said loudly. He got no response. "If there is someone here, I'm not dangerous. I'm one of the good guys, and I live 2 blocks north of here on State Street. You will see my truck, and there is also a little red car parked next to it. If you can hear me, come see me. I would like some company." There was no response, and after a minute, he got back into his truck and drove home. John set up the howler on the kitchen counter and hooked it up. It could be used both for indoor and outdoor, and it can also be used as a heater. He boiled water and made himself coffee. Basics taken care of, he thought. For the long term, I will have to get a freezer and fill it as soon as possible. Walmart and other stores have deep freeze storage rooms, and more than likely they are hooked up to generators as an emergency precaution. And even if they are not, there is no immediate rush. But I need to get my food supplies from there. John got his shotgun out and loaded it, just to have it handy if needed. He hooked the TV up as well as his computer. He had over 2 terabytes of movies and series. That's enough to keep him occupied for a year or more. There's supposed to be a way to connect the generator directly into the house electric system, but it is not within my area of expertise. What I have will work fine. Considering that it was mid-September, there is no need for heating up the house yet. But winter is coming, and if I'm still alive by then, I may have to get more howlers to heat up the house. It was not a large home, 3 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen. It was built as a ranch house, so it only had 1 floor, no basement. This was the second day. Just like yesterday, John went out into his front lawn and fired 3 rounds into the ground. He waited, but there was no response. The emergency radio. He had bought one at a yard sale, and if you could find it, it may have some emergency transmission or something like that. Maybe even someone trying to communicate. It took him almost 1 hour to find it. It had a crank, and you were supposed to wind it up for about 90 seconds, and that would give you 30 minutes of power. John was excited, and he cranked it for about 1 minute and tried it. All he could hear was static at first. As he searched the band, he heard a strange, voice-like transmission. It was very faint, and there was a lot of static, but it was something or someone transmitted. He could not understand any of it, and it did not sound human. It was continuous and very monotone. He made notation of where to find it and continued to turn the dial on the radio in hopes of hearing a recognizable voice, music, or anything. There was nothing, except for a knock at the door. Chapter 5. John freaked out, pulled his gun out, pointed it at the front door. He stood up, slowly moved toward the door. "Who is it?" he asked in a loud voice. He did not get a response. He peeked out the window, where he partially could see the steps leading to his front door. He saw a young girl running out of his yard and onto the street. John quickly got to the door, opened it, and yelled, "Stop! Come back! You don't have to be afraid." But she kept running, and soon she was out of sight. Damn, I should have just opened the door. I scared her off. Well, she'll be back, he thought. Once I start barbecue, she'll be back. I knew that I was not the only one, he thought. But a girl, and a kid at that? He did not like kids. Well, maybe not really true. He liked kids when they belonged to someone else. God damn it. He had never even considered anything except for another guy, a grown-up, that could think for himself. John checked on the generator and added some gas. It was still early afternoon, and he might as well get the freezer. He went back to Lowe's and found a 6 by 3 foot wide, like everything that he needed. It was heavy, but with muscle power and using the come along, he managed to get it onto the truck bed. He would set it up and make sure that the generator could manage everything before getting food items to fill it with. He backed up to the front porch and slid the freezer onto the deck, pushing it up against the side of the house, and this is where it will stay. He hooked it up, and immediately the sound from the generator got a little bit louder, but the dials on the generator were still in the green. Time to eat. He fired the grill up and took out 2 large ribeye steaks from the freezer inside. He would make mashed potatoes, the fast kind. She would not be able to resist this, he thought. Time for the howler to work again. It did not take long for the smell of barbecue to spread throughout the neighborhood. The potatoes were done, and John set up 2 plates on the table on the deck next to the grill. Now the steaks were almost done. Now all I have to do is wait, he thought. After a few minutes, he thought he heard something that sounded like footsteps behind him on the walkway. You hungry? He asked, not knowing if anybody was standing behind him. Yes, a female voice answered. John slowly turned around and froze. There she was, a kid, maybe 10 years old, holding a compound bow with an arrow pointed directly at him. It was a small bow, but it looked powerful. You gonna shoot me? He asked. Don't know yet, she answered. You want to eat first? John asked. I'm not going to hurt you. Can you hit anything with that bow anyways? She turned, aimed at the tree standing 35, maybe 40 feet away. She let the arrow go. It hit dead center. All right, John said, maybe not so helpless after all. My name is John, he said. What's your name? Kelly, she answered. Nice to meet you, Kelly, John said. How old are you, 10? The girl looked at him, and when she answered, her voice was filled with loathing and uncontrolled anger. I am 12, she said. How old are you, 90? Yep, you're pretty close, he said, while thinking to himself that he would have been a lot better off with a dog instead of this. John fixed 2 plates, and they ate in silence. Did you see the light beam in the sky last night? He asked. No, she answered him. What was it? I don't know, John said, but I think it had something to do with the spaceship or whatever it was above us yesterday. Kelly looked at him. I was inside and I heard something that made me nauseous, and I looked through the window. I could not tell what it was. It was shiny, and it scared me. Was it aliens? I don't know what else it could have been. It disappeared in a flash, so it cannot have been something that we have made. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it scared me too. What has happened? Where's everybody? Kelly asked. I really don't know, John said, but I want to start with finding out what the light beam is and where it starts. I'm going to drive in that direction of where I think that it's coming from and take it from there. It's probably farther away than it seems, but it could be Fredericksburg. Kelly came along as John went to Walmart. He had been correct in that they had a large walk-in freezer in the back. They loaded up 2 shopping carts with frozen foods, mostly meat, steaks, chicken, ground beef, and such. They filled a 3rd shopping cart with dry goods such as rice and instant mashed potatoes. The 4th shopping cart was filled with canned vegetables, some candy, and he almost forgot, cold cuts and bread. Anything else that we need, we can easily come back, Kelly said. When they got to the truck and had loaded everything, John sat on the passenger side. Kelly gave him a strange look. Why are you sitting in the passenger seat? Because you're driving. If you don't know how, you're going to learn. There was no room for arguments, and Kelly got in behind the steering wheel. The pedal on the right is a gas, and the one on the left is a brake. Turn the key to start this thing, he said, pointing to the ignition key. Kelly looked at him. Are we actually doing this? You want me to drive? He looked at her and pointed to the key in the steering column. Kelly started the truck. Now what? Put your foot on the brake. She did. Take hold of the shifter on the side of the steering column, John pointed, and pull it toward you and slowly down until the indicator, John pointed again, comes to the D. Then let it go. Kelly did as John showed her, and then she took her foot off the brake pedal. The truck, idling slowly, moved forward. Put your foot back on the brake, John said. Kelly did, and the truck came to a halt. The parking lot was empty, so John had her practice by turning the wheel, making circles, using the gas, and backing up. It did not take Kelly long to get an understanding, and she was starting to have fun. Okay, this is as good as it's going to get, John said. Take us home, Kelly. Kelly navigated the truck out of the parking lot and onto the highway. With no traffic and Kelly driving at the breakneck speed of 30 miles per hour, they made it back to John's house, where they loaded the freezer and stored all the other items that they had picked up. Kelly was very excited about driving for the first time in her short life and could not stop talking about it. It was as if a protective wall inside of her had fallen, and she opened up, talking about her family, school, and on and on and on. John, having been married to a talker, had long ago learned to tune it out, saying the occasional, yep, sure, not knowing what the subject was, but he had gotten very good at it. John kept looking up at the sky in the general direction where he had seen the beam last night. He could not see anything, though that may not. He could not see anything, and though that maybe he had not seen it, he might have been imagining it all. But no, he had seen it, and he hoped that it would be there tonight as well. John lit the howler, and they fixed supper, consisting of mashed potatoes and Italian sausages. They sat on the deck as the sun started to set. As the sun started to disappear behind the tree line, John could see a faint beam in the sky where he had seen it last night. As it grew darker, the beam grew stronger. John thought that it may be a continuous beam, only that it was not visible during daylight hours. He tried to estimate how far away it was, but he could not figure it out. I need to get up on a high mountain or something to see where it originates from. But Virginia is flat, as far as he knew. West Virginia, now that is where the mountains are, not down here. I guess that I can start driving in the direction of where the beam seemed to come from. That would be my only option. He told Kelly that tonight he was going to drive toward the beam. John was not sure as to why, but deep down he thought that maybe that's where people would be kept. Can I come? Kelly asked. If you want to, sure you can come, John said. They loaded the truck up with food and other things that they might need, including the shotgun and Kelly's bow and arrows. John made some more coffee and filled a travel cup to take along. He had found an old Rand McNally travel roadmap book, and he asked Kelly to keep track of where they went. I don't know how to use this, Kelly said. They don't teach us at the school. Can't you get the GPS to work? No, and just figure it out, John said, as he put the truck in gear. He would have to stop and siphon gas to fill up the tank at some point. Chapter 6. The sun had set and it was dark, very dark, with no street lights or any other lights that, for that matter. The beam was very bright and it seemed as if it was pulsating. It was still impossible to determine how far away it was or how high up in the sky it went. They were traveling down 95 and were closing in on Fredericksburg when they decided to take a break. John did not smoke in the truck since Kelly was there, so they made frequent stops. "Why don't you smoke in the truck? That way we don't have to make so many stops," Kelly asked. "My mom always smoked in the car when we go somewhere." "I didn't know that," John said. "I'll just open the window a bit." They had some cold cuts and Pepsi to go with it. They got back on the road, and as they got closer to Fredericksburg, there were more and more cars and some wrecks that they had to work around. As they drove, John thought that this is just like The Walking Dead. Without The Walking Dead, of course. Sure hope it stays that way, he thought, as a deer ran across the road in front of them. Kelly yelled out the warning, and John managed to avoid hitting the deer. It bounced across the road and disappeared into the trees that lined the road. It had been in the back of his mind that maybe the aliens had left some behind on purpose so that they would repopulate the world. That thought sure gave rise to a whole new perspective on life and their purpose in this entire scheme, if there was such a thing. It was close to midnight, and John could not tell if they were any closer to the source of the beam or not. He could see that it appeared brighter than before, and it was definitely pulsating. He looked over to his right and saw that Kelly was sleeping. This must be very hard on her, he thought. Tough girl, though. As they kept going, they were running low on gas and stopped at a diner where a bunch of cars and trucks were parked. John siphoned gas. He had to fill the gas cans 3 times before they had a full tank. Every time that he sucked on the hose and gas entered his mouth, he spit and cussed, and Kelly busted up laughing at him. "Next time you'll do this," he told her. They had only driven a couple of miles when Kelly said, "There's light in that house over there." She pointed to a farmhouse on the right side of the road. John pulled over and onto a dirt road on the left-hand side. He continued to drive until he got to a bunch of trees and parked behind them. "Why are we parking here?" Kelly said. "I just want to look at that house and see if the lights turn off or if there's anything else before I drive up there. I also don't think that it's a good idea to visit in the middle of the night. Let's just sit here, get some sleep, and we'll drive up there first thing in the morning. Is that okay with you?" "Do you think that they're dangerous?" Kelly asked. "No, just that with things being the way they are right now, we can't be too careful." "Okay," Kelly said and leaned back in her seat. The night passed and they both got some sleep. They were exhausted and overwhelmed by what had happened in just 2 days. None of them had come to understand the implications or even less of an understanding of what to do next. Kelly had her cell phone with her, and she clutched it in her hand as she fell asleep. John woke up first. He needed to use the bathroom. He was sure that Kelly needed it also. Parked behind the trees, he could see the house that had the lights on last night, and looking further up the dirt road that they were on, he saw a couple of houses. "We can use the bathrooms there," he thought as he started up the truck. He drove to the closest house and stopped. Kelly woke up. "We can use the bathrooms in these houses," he said. "Let's try this one first." Kelly did not object, and they went to the front door. The door was unlocked. "Anyone here?" John yelled out. "Guess not," he said after receiving no answer, and they went inside. The house had 2 bathrooms, and they both did what they had to do. John found a package with toothbrushes in it. He brought them and toothpaste downstairs and gave one to Kelly. There was some water in bottles that they could use for brushing their teeth. Both of them felt a lot better. They decided to drive to the house where they saw the light last night and hope for the best. John asked Kelly to stay down when they got close to the house. John honked the horn 3 times, and as he came to the stop, about 50 feet from the house, nothing happened. So he honked again and stepped out of the truck. He heard a dog barking inside the house. No doubt about it, it was a dog. Kelly jumped out of the truck. "It's a dog. Can you hear it?" she yelled. "God damn it, Kelly, I told you to stay in the truck," John said. The front door of the house opened just a little. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" a man asked him. They could not see him, but he sounded old and grumpy. John said, "We live outside of Manassas, and we are trying to find out where the beam originates. We saw the light in your house last night and decided to wait until morning before driving up here. My name is John, and this is Kelly. We are not looking for trouble." The door opened up, and a mixed breed dog looking like a golden mix came running up to them. She was very friendly and happy to see them. The man stepped onto the front porch. "I'm Steve. Glad to meet you," he said with a heavy southern accent. Steve did not have anything that added to what John and Kelly already knew. Steve woke up and found his wife gone without a trace and the electricity gone. He had tried his cell phone, his laptop, but they did not work. "It must have been an EMP," he said, and John agreed, but added that it must be something more to it all. Since cars still worked, an EMP would kill all circuitry, even car engines, since they all run on computers today. As to the spaceship, Steve had not seen it, and the looks that he gave them revealed that he thought that they might have lost their minds. "Look here," he said, "there must be an explanation for all of this, but I don't think the spaceships and aliens will be sufficient explanation," he chuckled. "I'm not saying that you did not see what you say that you saw. I'm just saying that it's far-fetched. As to the beam, yeah, I've seen it, and I have no idea what it is. Just stay away from it is my advice. This thing will blow over." "Would you like some fresh, very good coffee?" John asked. "Oh, you bet. I haven't had any coffee since this thing started," Steve answered. John set the howler on the tailgate, and it did not take long until the coffee was ready. Kelly took a Pepsi out of the truck. They had some more cold cuts and bread, and talked in general about what was going on and what it may be. "I think that you can safely drive straight through town and head for 95. Just follow the signs. Once you hit the highway, you want to head south toward Richmond. After that, I don't know. I guess that once the sun sets, you will see the beam," Steve said, as John and Kelly headed out. They promised to stop by on the way back. Chapter 7. "You drive," John said to Kelly. She did not say anything, but there was a smile on her face as she sat in the driver's seat. "Take it easy until you start feeling comfortable," John told her. "I will," she said as she started the truck, made a big circle, and turned back on the dirt road. They made it to Fredericksburg without any incidents, and Kelly was starting to relax as she drove. There were signs pointing to Highway 95, and soon they were heading south toward Richmond. The closer they came to the capital of the South, the more vehicles that they had to navigate around. At one place, the road was totally blocked, and Kelly had to drive on the grass in the center divided area. At first, she did not want to drive there since it might be slippery, and asked John to take over. John refused, telling her that this is how you learn. She made it past the pile of cars and trucks trucks that blocked the highway. There was a great deal of pride written on Kelly's face as she got back on the highway. "Are you married?" Kelly asked. John was a little bit blindsided by the question. "No," he answered, "divorced." Kelly made a sound that John did not understand, but he sure as hell didn't want to talk about the reasons he was divorced or any other personal stuff with a 12-year-old. They said nothing for the next 20 miles or so. "You better slow down a bit. Just take your foot off the gas pedal and let it coast," John said. The speed had slowly picked up, and Kelly was doing 85 miles an hour. John explained how to read the speedometer and showed her the water temperature gauge and the gas gauge. They were running low on gas, and Kelly pulled over at a roadside diner where they siphoned more gas and filled their tank. John did not make Kelly siphon gas as he had threatened her with, and this time she did not laugh at him when he got gas in his mouth. They both heard a metallic click behind them and froze. "Don't you fucking move," a voice behind them said. "Slowly stand up, turn around. Keep your hands where I can see them," the voice demanded. They did, and when they turned, they saw a young man, maybe in his mid-20s, holding an automatic rifle pointed at them. He had what John called crazy eyes, and more than likely he was high on drugs. "Hi there, little sweetheart," he said to Kelly. "What is your name?" Kelly did not answer him. "What are you doing?" John asked him. "Shut the fuck up," he said. "Girl, go sit in the truck or I shoot your dad right here and now." Neither John nor Kelly said anything, but Kelly ran to the passenger side of the truck and got inside. She left the door open, thinking that she would run if anything happened. "If you want to take the truck, this makes no sense. There are better trucks in this parking lot that you can take. Most of them probably have the keys in the ignition," John said. "No, I don't think so," he said. "I'll take the girl off your hands." He raised the gun, held it steady, pointed directly at John's forehead. John closed his eyes. For a moment he had thought about pulling his revolver, but knew that he would not be able to get it out fast enough. He opened his eyes again and looked at the man in front of him. "You do not have to do this," he said. The man's facial features changed, as if he was surprised. His eyes opened wide, and his mouth opened up as well. He looked down, and John did the same. There was something sticking out of his chest, an arrow. The man's legs buckled, and he fell to the ground. John kicked his gun away and looked over toward the truck. Kelly was standing in front of the truck, holding her bow. She had a determined, almost angry look on her face. John walked up to her and held her, both in shock over the encounter. "I don't want to be here any longer. I really want to find my mom," Kelly said. They got back in the truck, but before John did, he picked up the automatic rifle that lay on the ground. John was driving as they entered Richmond. They had not spoken at all after leaving the diner. John looked at Kelly. "Thank you," he said. Kelly nodded. "Are you okay?" John asked. "Yeah, I'm okay. He was going to shoot you," she said. They drove on in silence as the sun slowly disappeared and the shadows got longer. John kept looking at the sky, mostly to see if any other spaceships were out there. But there was nothing. They pulled over at the side of the road where they had at a place where they had a full view of their surroundings. John did not want to get any more surprises, and they would stay clear of cluttered areas. They got the howler going and had a nice supper. As the sun set and it got darker, Kelly looked up ahead and said, "Look, there are two more beams over there." She pointed in a westward direction. John looked, and he saw them as well. The beam that they were trying to reach was close, still hard to determine the exact location, maybe 4 or 5 miles away. This close, the beam was large, maybe 100 feet in diameter. The pulsating was steady, and there was a noise, a slow humming that they had not heard before. The area at the base of the beam seemed to be lit, and it revealed a dome-like see-through structure. They were still too far away to see any details, but close enough for their nerves to get tangled. They stayed on 95 as they left Richmond behind. They were getting close, and the humming sound grew louder. There was a long uphill stretch, and when they reached the highest point, John slammed on the brakes. "What is it?" Kelly asked. "I have no idea," answered her. His heart rate must be close to giving him a heart attack, he thought. Kelly's face had turned white as she looked at John, her eyes showing absolute fear. Below them, the road turned downward. They saw the base of the beam. It was round as far as John could tell. The beam was centered and pulsating. It was fluorescent, and it appeared as something like a substance by each pulse moved upward inside of the beam. On the ground, within the limits of the dome, was a churning, grayish substance that was semi-liquid. The substance was deep, maybe 15 feet high, and it seemed to be contained by the dome. Even the dome's lower end was 25 feet above the ground. It was still contained by it. The substance was constantly moving in a circle around the beam, churning, feeding the beam. John could see that the circle on the ground had been larger at some point. He figured the substance would be all sucked up into the beam. What would happen at that point was anybody's guess. By now it was obvious that the truck coming down the road had not caused any reaction, and John wanted to get closer to see what this was. He could not see any drones or alien guards. He did not know what to expect, but there was no movement outside the circle. "I want you to stay here," he told Kelly. "I'm going to drive close and see if there is anything that I can find out." "You're not leaving me here," Kelly said, and got in the truck. John believed that he knew what the grayish substance was, but he needed to be sure. If it was what he thought it was, then he did not want Kelly to see it. As he got in behind the wheel and started the truck, Kelly turned to him. "You know that I'm not stupid, right?" She seemed mad as she continued. "I know what it could be down there." John said nothing. He put the truck in gear and drove slowly to the edge of the circle. Chapter 8. John stopped the truck 50 feet away from the circle. He can see that there was a containment below the point where he had seen that the dome did not reach the ground. From the lower edge of the dome there was a shimmering shield of sorts that connected the dome to the ground. John got out of the truck, telling Kelly to stay in the truck. "I want you to sit behind the steering wheel with the truck running. If anything happens to me, you get out of here. Are we clear on that?" Kelly moved to the driver's seat. John slowly moved closer. He saw that the dome was a lot taller than he had first thought. The beam's pulsating light had made it seem as the dome had been maybe 50 feet above the ground, but in reality it was hundreds of feet tall. John saw a foot, cut at the angle, surface and then disappear into the grayish substance again. It was in a state of decay, and suddenly it became clear to John what this was. He turned around and saw that Kelly knew as well. They had both suspected this, but suspect and to actually see were two very different things. He turned back He turned his back to the beam and walked to the truck. It was an unsteady gait, and he felt lightheaded. There was no smell, so the containment must have been absolute. He took a few more steps and heard a scraping noise behind him. He quickly turned. His hand went to his gun, and he pulled it out. Nobody was standing behind him, but he saw that the dome was slowly closing in on itself, as if it was completing the task of sending the substance. John did not want to use the term people up through the beam to wherever it was going. John got to the truck, sat in the passenger seat. They did not speak. There was nothing to say, both trying to grasp what was happening. John was looking out through the side window, trying to think, feel something, anything, when he saw one of the beams in the far distance disappear. "Did you see that?" he asked. "See what?" "See what?" Kelly asked. "I could have sworn that a beam out there somewhere." He pointed west through the passenger window. Just went dark. It disappeared. Kelly said nothing, and they both felt quiet again, both trying to get their brains working. This is just too much, John thought. He asked Kelly to drive up to the crest of the hill. He wanted to sit there for a while and see what would happen once the beam ran out of substance to feed on. As they turned the truck around, they saw the dome close in a little bit more. They pulled around at the top of the hill so that they had a full view of the beam. They sat in silence, watching. John started talking, mostly to himself. So, if a farmer plants potatoes in a field, he then waits until it is time to harvest the potatoes. For each potato that he plants in the ground, he will get up to 10 potatoes at harvest. "Have you gone insane?" Kelly asked him. "Don't do that. I know that you're old, but still." "No, hear me out," John said. "Time, for us here on Earth, is based on the moon and sun and stuff. But for others in another solar system, a year to us may be a minute for them." "Okay, and?" Kelly said, still not comfortable with John's strange behavior. John thought for a bit, not sure if he should even tell her what he really thought. "What if we are the potatoes?" "You can be anything you want," Kelly said with a smirk on her face, "Mr. Potato Head." "No, you're missing the point. What if we are just a very small part of a very large setup? We are basically the food for others, and they come and harvest us. They leave some of us to repopulate the world, and then they come and harvest again." "Whatever you say, Mr. Potato Head," Kelly said. "I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't care, okay?" They sat in silence. Kelly looked at John every now and then, trying to figure out if he was crazy or not. The dome kept getting smaller. When they had arrived, they could see 5 of the beams in the distance. Now there were only 2. John's head was filled with different scenarios. In the Bible, man lived for 400 years or more. That meant some serious repopulation. He giggled to himself, making Kelly look at him with suspicion in her eyes. "I just thought about something funny," he said to calm her down. The dome kept getting smaller, and suddenly it seemed to turn in on itself and become part of the beam as it disintegrated and disappeared before their eyes. John looked around, and he could not see any other beams. They had all disappeared. They switched seats, and John drove down to where the dome had been. He wanted to see what the ground looked like. The area was flat. There was no growth at all, no grass, trees, or anything else grew there. It looked like a controlled burn had taken place. A very large circle, clearly that would be overtaken by nature within a few months. and nothing will ever show that something very big had taken place at this spot. What now? Kelly asked. Let's go home, John answered her.